He's interested in creating. He's interested in the exploration of human behavior, and the ramification of moral and ethical choices within those interrelationships. And that's what he makes his movies about. He makes a movie about people and the dilemma that people are faced on a daily basis.
I don't want you to protest. I don't want you to riot. I don't want you to write to your congressmen because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value. So, I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. I want you to get up right now. Get up, go to your windows, open them, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. Things have got to change.
How many stations does this go out?
You've got to get mad.
67.
Say,
I know it goes to Louisville and Atlanta.
I'm not going to take this anymore. Then we'll figure out what to do.
I just think he's one of the greatest directors I've ever worked for. I don't think I've ever said that before. But he always made me feel safe. And he always made me feel like I could make a fool out of myself and it would be all right. He always made me feel like I could gamble and never come up losing. That's a pretty amazing thing for someone to be able to instill in you.
Sidney Lumet's outstanding body of work includes over 40 feature films. Yet before there were feature films, Lumet was a young actor on Broadway in such productions as The Eternal Road, George Washington Slept Here, and 1/3 of a Nation, which was made into a film in 1939 and marked Lumet's only screen appearance. After serving in World War II, Lumet organized an off-Broadway theater group and became its director. In 1950, Lumet joined CBS as an assistant director of live drama shows being televised regularly from New York City. A year later, he started directing such series as You Are There, Danger, Best of Broadway, The Alcoa Hour, The Goodyear Playhouse, and others. Actors Ossie Davis, Rod Steiger, and Jack Lemmon recall working with Lumet in those early days of live television.
I came to meet Sidney Lumet on a pioneering adventure that took place, I think, in the late 50s. Sidney was directing a film about John Brown at Harper's Ferry. And what the unique thing about it was that this was the first time that tape as modality had been taken from the stationary cameras in the studio and put on a traveling unit and went with us all the way to Harper's Ferry. It was quite primitive, and it broke down 2 or 3 times a day. Still in all, I think Sid Lumet was the kind of captain of our adventure who led us through it with some distinction.
He was directing You Are There with a young announcer named Walter Cronkite. And it was a show that in a half hour it showed you, like this is April 12th, 18-something, and you're at the theater, Abraham Lincoln, the president is about to come in the Ford Theater, and then the actors would act out the assassination or whatever it was. I was kind of like his boy for a long time, winding up when we wound up doing my favorite piece of work, which was The Pawnbroker.
Actor Jack Lemmon recalls one particular instance when things did not go exactly as planned during a live television broadcast on the CBS show Danger.
At one point, we're chasing after some crooks, and we're on a second-floor landing, and Bob Simon is right in front of me. I'm right behind him. and he says, "Halt, police," or whatever, and pulls his gun out. And as he's pulling his gun out, a guy at the bottom of the stairs turns and fires and shoots him in the stomach. So he doubles over, and down he goes. I pull my gun out, I shoot past Bob, I get the guy. When we got on the show, we had, there was, no way we had ever heard the guns because the dress rehearsal was over. Now the next thing is doing the live show. It sounded like a cannon going off to me, and it threw me. So when I pulled my gun to shoot, instead of shooting by Bob, I shot him right in the ass. You should pardon me. And I was only about this far from his fanny, and bang! So it really got him, And the flame came out and went right through it, burned him right through his pants and everything. Now he's lying down there and he's been shot. I mean, really shot in the fanny. Now I go down, I try to keep going with the show, and I've got his head in my arms, I'm cradling, I'm saying, "Mom will be at the hospital, get an ambulance," and all of that. And the other voices off stage are hollering, "Okay, call an ambulance," and so forth. But unfortunately, Bob lost it, and I can't blame him. He looked at me and he said, "You dirty son of a bitch. He shot me."
One man is dead. Another man's life is at stake. If there's a reasonable doubt in your minds as to the guilt of the accused, a reasonable doubt, then you must bring me a verdict of not guilty.
Lumet's impressive feature film debut came in 1957 with the production of 12 Angry Men, starring Henry Fonda in the title role of Juror Number 8. Based on the play of the same name, all of the action took place in a jury room. The film brought Lumet an Academy Award nomination for Best Director, as well as numerous other honors from around the world.
When I began to do 12 Angry Men, everybody said, "You're crazy. How can you do a picture in one room?" And with the complete arrogance and ignorance of, although not so much ignorance, of youth, I never thought of it as a problem. If one simply made the camera work a part of what the piece was about. And so it never turned out to be a problem.
What's the matter with you guys? You all know he's guilty. He's got to burn. You're letting him slip through our fingers.
Slip through our fingers? Are you his executioner?
I'm one of them.
Perhaps you'd like to pull the switch.
For this kid, you bet I would.
I feel sorry for you. What it must feel like to want to pull the switch. Ever since you walked into this room, you've been acting like a self-appointed public avenger. You want to see this boy die because you personally want it, not because of the facts. You're a sadist.
Kill him, Malt. Kill him!
You don't really mean you'll kill me, do you?
Interestingly enough, by the way, it was not a hit in the United States. It got great reviews, but we didn't do any business. And it was largely in Europe that the real impact of it was felt. And so even though it was thrilling and terrific, nothing up here ran away with it.
Lumet followed 12 Angry Men with Stage Struck, That Kind of Woman, The Fugitive Kind, View from the Bridge, and Long Day's Journey into Night, before tackling the 1964 production of Failsafe, a nail-biting nuclear-age nightmare in which American planes have been erroneously sent to bomb the USSR. The film starred Henry Fonda and Walter Matthau.
With Failsafe, we could not get, of course, any Department of Defense cooperation. But even more than that, there was, I think, I could never prove this, I think an active attempt to, not to stop the movie, but certainly not to help us in any way. For instance, I started inquiring about footage, and all of a sudden we couldn't even get any footage for rent. We had gotten hold of one shot, which was sent to us by some rental house at the beginning, just as an example of what they had. And all you see in the final picture is various optical treatments of this one shot. Closer, farther away, placed way in the background. I mean, we did the whole picture literally with one shot of the plane on exterior.
In other words, it's possible the fail-safe mechanism might be giving them a go signal at the same time they can't reach you for positive confirmation.
It's possible. It's not probable, but...
Is it possible?
Yes, sir.
All right, now, if we do regain radio contact, will the bombers respond to an order to return?
If we can reach them within the next 5 minutes, after that, their orders ought to disregard any verbal command.
What's our next step then, General, if we follow standard procedure?
We already have fighter planes in the air. The next step would be to order the fighters after the bombers to raise them visually and divert them from their course.
But if the bombers don't respond, then what?
The fighters would be ordered to shoot them down.
Who gives that order?
You do, sir.
There was a terrific conflict about the movie because it was independently financed and therefore didn't have a distributor. And unbeknownst to any of us, Stanley Kubrick was making Dr. Strangelove at the same time. The way it resolved itself, which was Columbia, which was making Dr. Strangelove, bought us as well. So they released Strangelove first and then Failsafe came out. The story of every picture always is the story of a struggle of one kind or another, and that was the struggle on that one.
In 1965, Lumet brought to the screen the powerful drama The Pawnbroker, the story of a Jewish pawnbroker in Harlem who was haunted by his grueling experiences in a Nazi camp during the Holocaust. The role of Saul Nazerman brought actor Rod Steiger an Academy Award nomination for Best Actor.
I am very much of Elie Wiesel's opinion that nothing should be done about the Holocaust, that it's such a unique experience that I don't think paintings ought to be done of it, I don't think movies ought to be done of it. But one of the things that I liked about The Pawnbroker was that it was about that and the effect of that in a man's life, but it didn't take place there. And I remember in the original script, there were indications of where newsreel footage should be used. And again, this was done with private financing, and I went to Eli Landau, who was putting up the money for it. I said, Eli, there's no way I'm going to do that. Those people didn't die so I could make a movie out of it. And what I just have to do is in a few solitary instances where we flash back to there, I just got to find a quick image that says it, and we get out. From that point of view, it was a good picture to work on because it was about really the effect of the past, about a man who couldn't get rid of his past.
Today is an anniversary.
What happened?
Happened?
Yes.
I didn't die. Everything that I loved was taken away from me, and I did not die.
Mr. Nazerman.
There was nothing I could do. Nothing. Strange, I could do nothing. No, there was nothing I could do.
I remember when I came in the first rehearsal and we were going to read, and here comes this young kid. What was I, in my 30s? Now I'm the age of the pawnbroker. And here comes this young kid, and I remember everybody at the table kind of giving furtive glances to each other. Says, "What is it? Who is this? This is Steiger."
I think it's one of Rod's best performances, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that was my best. I also think the material was my best. That's got a lot to do with it.
Lumet directed The Hill in 1965. It is the story of a World War II British disciplinary camp located in the Libyan desert and starred Sean Connery, Harry Andrews, Ian Bannon, Michael Redgrave, and Ossie Davis.
I knew that Connery was a brilliant actor. You know, the Bond performances were so charming. So I knew he could act. I didn't have any doubts about it. And it was just a question of what part would allow him to play what. And he was very bright. He chose the hill. The picture happened because of Sean. And it was obviously, from his point of view, hoping to break the mold that the Bond pictures had put him in.
Right, left, right, halt! About time.
Oh, para 528, section 7. An officer will not reprove a warrant officer or an NCO in the presence or hearing of a private soldier.
You know the KRRs, don't you?
Yes, sir.
You're breaking every rule in the book.
And you live by it, don't you?
We're both regulars. We are the army. What the hell else are we supposed to do?
I live by the book. Para this and para under section XYZ that. But Queen Victoria's dead. It's out of date.
What kind of a soldier are you?
I'm a live one unless Williams has got other plans for me.
Discipline. The army's run on discipline.
I'm a regular soldier because I couldn't get a bloody job in Civic Street.
Making the hill was exceedingly difficult. Just as I said, I'd followed old Sidney to Harper's Ferry and worked in extremely unpleasant conditions there sometimes. It was nothing compared to what Sidney had in store when I let him persuade me to come to London for a week's rehearsal and a chance, of course, to meet Sean Connery and Michael Redgrave and Harry Andrews and all those distinguished English actors. And then the real fun began. We flew from London to Spain, and it was a hot, dusty, sandy location.
It was agony shooting the hill. We were in a desert in Spain where they shot Lawrence of Arabia, and it was the most peculiar, climactic spot I'd ever been in because it was unbelievably hot, 120 degrees during the day.
And the wind would blow the sand up your nostrils, and it was like a desert storm sometimes in the shooting. And yet, for lunch, you could take off your clothes, go over that sand dune, dive into the Mediterranean, and have a nice swim. But the location gave you no idea that there was water for miles. Well, we were really surrounded by water.
After the third day, we had to be extremely careful that we kept going with the salt tablets and kept going with the intakes of water because otherwise, by around 11:30, 11:45, you'd keel over.
Sidney's method with actors, in my opinion, is highly personal and highly individual. He manages to get inside the consciousness of each actor and to become a personal confidant. For example, I was doing a scene where I come into the commandant's office and I strip out of my uniform. I am no more soldier, so I'm standing there in misgivings and shorts and things like that. And Sidney comes up and said, I say, you know what you ought to do? You know what you really ought to do? Why don't you just go ape? I said, what do you mean? He said, just go ape, take off your shoes and just go and show him, be jungle, whatever it is. I said, you think I should? He said, yeah, try it. So I allowed Sidney to persuade me to take off my shoes and all my clothes. And there's a little gate that leads you to the inner office where the commanding officer is. So I come to that gate, and instead of pushing it through with my hand, I jump up, with my feet. I kick the door. I sprained both of my big toes. I was hardly able to walk for a couple of weeks. And in addition to that, the big scene that I had was a contest between myself and another character up on the hill to prove who was the biggest man. And I'd been training for that, you know. So when the time came to do the scene, I could hardly do it because my toes were swollen. But Sidney once again came. He was very conciliatory. He said, "Toes hurt, right?" I said, "Yeah." So, you know, maybe if you would put the pain of the toes into the scene. How about that? Wait, what do you think would happen? So by the time you listen to Sidney, you're willing to do anything that he tells you, and for some strange reason, it works.
The Hill was followed by The Group, The Deadly Affair, The Seagull, Bye Bye Braverman, Last of the Mobile Hotshots, The Appointment, and the 1971 production of The Anderson Tapes. Based on the novel by Lawrence Sanders, the intricate caper was effectively shaped by Lumet, who skillfully integrated broad satire with suspense. The film starred Sean Connery, Diane Cannon, Martin Balsam, and Christopher Walken in his first major screen role.
The Anderson Tapes was, again, something that was up and about because of the situation we were living in. And we all knew that the government had surveillance on everything and everybody. We couldn't prove it, but we knew it. And here was a movie, again, a very good melodrama, good plot, good story, about the government's eyes and ears in on everything. So that, I mean, every one of the characters in that movie was being followed for one reason or another.
Right now, what do we figure to get out of these apartments?
A furniture van full of stuff. From Picasso paintings to stones, flowers.
Christ.
Well, what do you want?
Cash. A lot of small bills. That's what you want.
There's cash there.
Maybe I clear 25,000. 25. Do I hear 20?
I think we'll do better.
How much better?
Well, I'm counting on this to put me out. I want a steak.
A steak for what?
I want to be a sponge fisher. Up at 5:30, raw fish for breakfast, out in the boats by 6. By 6:30, diving for sponges.
Hey, what sponges? You're not a fisherman. You're a goddamn burglar.
I told him that I wouldn't work in the nude because there was a scene with Sean Connery and I, in bed, where I'm supposed to be sitting topless. And I said, "I'd love to do your movie, but you have to know right now that I don't work naked." And he said, "Well, we can work that out." And we did, as a matter of fact. I come in the door, Sean has been in prison for a long time, and I walk in the door, and I have to take off my bra, and the camera pans down to where I take off my pants. So underneath my bra, I had on another bra, and underneath my pants, I had on another pair of pants. And then I'm sitting on Sean in bed. I've got on bottoms. I've just been very protective of that because I just feel that there's a line that's drawn when you're an actress. I don't agree with a lot of actresses today who are, doesn't mean they're wrong, I just don't agree with it, who are taking off all their clothes in front of the camera. I think there's a lot to be said about mystery.
It was amazing to be with Sidney and Sean and these people, Marty Balsam and all these people who were in the movie, these wonderful New York actors, you know.
I had known Chris a long time. He was a kid actor along with his brother. That thing that is still true today, he never can do anything that's cliched in any way. It's always completely original, completely his own. I knew that about his work, and I remember he came in and read for the party, read 2 lines, and I said,
gotta
"Sure."
go to the bathroom. So long.
Yeah, okay.
America, man, you know, it's so beautiful. I want to eat it. You hang in there, man.
If I ever directed a movie, I would absolutely follow Sidney's way of doing things.
Lumet followed the Anderson Tapes with Child's Play in 1972, before directing the highly successful production of Serpico in 1973. Based on a true story of an unconventional, nonconformist New York undercover policeman, Lumet's Serpico starred a young Al Pacino who was nominated for an Academy Award as Best Actor for his role as Frank Serpico.
I think Serpico plays as well today as it did when we made it, is because we're in much greater corruption than we were then. That story seems to never stop. What was revealed at the Knapp Commission has not only not been resolved, and Serpico was the main witness at the Knapp Commission hearings, was not only not resolved. If anything, it's as bad, certainly as bad, very possibly worse today. So, again, that problem of something we all knew about that has a real presence in our lives, coupled with a very good story about a very interesting man.
Frank, I notified Commissioner Delaney about everything you told me. He wants you to stay right where you are and continue to collect information. Then you'll be his eyes and his ears. He said he was delighted that, quote, a man of integrity had surfaced, unquote.
When do I hear from him?
Well, he said he'd reach out to you when the time comes.
Reach out?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, my situation's pretty fucking sticky up there. I mean, what am I supposed to do? Just wait for him to...
You must have patience, Frank.
Yeah, but it's pretty fucking sticky.
When a man like the commissioner says he'll get in touch with you, he'll get in touch with you.
Following Serpico, Lumet directed the 1972 production of The Offense. Then in 1974, he brought to the screen Agatha Christie's Murder on the Orient Express, with an all-star cast that included Albert Finney, Lauren Bacall, Ingrid Bergman, Sean Connery, John Gielgud, Anthony Perkins, Vanessa Redgrave, Richard Widmark, Michael York, and Jacqueline Bisset. The film received 6 Academy Award nominations.
I said, why did you cast me? He said, which was frightfully flattering, I must say this. He said, because when you have small parts, you need really good actors to fill them out. He said, there's no such thing as a small part. He was the first director who said that to me.
I fell in love with it. I just thought it was the best plot I had ever read. I could not believe it. At the end, when I came to the end of that script, and you talk about a whodunit, 12 people done it. It just blew me away. And I said, I think there's a way of doing this so that we cast a star in every part. You know, if we say, look, this is the top money, and you're all getting the top money, and the billing will be alphabetical, and the parts are fun, and come along for the ride, and people did.
Pupils still slightly dilated. Could have been drugged. Was drugged.
With what?
There's a smell of valerian, which is harmless, but something must have been added. May I close his eyes now?
Wish you would.
Why did he lose so much blood? Can I pull back the bedclothes?
By all means.
Mr. Ratchet has been frontally stabbed 10, 11, 12 times.
I was curious to see whether everybody would get on, whether Sidney could handle everybody, and there wasn't, I don't think I saw an uneven bump. There was no harumphing and star turns.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are all aware that the repulsive murderer has himself been repulsively and perhaps deservedly murdered. How and why? Here is the simple answer. There is evidence supporting the theory that the murderer was a stranger to us all. Mrs. Hubbard was conscious of a man in her compartment soon after 1:15 a.m. She later found, near her bedside, the button of a Wagon Lee conductor. Fräulein Schmidt discovered, planted in her suitcase, the uniform of a conductor which could not possibly have fitted Pierre, and from which, in fact, there was a button missing. And in the trouser pocket of the uniform was a conductor's pass key. Later still, Mrs. Hubbard discovered this blood-stained dagger, which Dr. Constantine confirms could have been the murderer's weapon.
After directing Loving Molly in 1974, Lumet tackled Dog Day Afternoon, re-teaming once again with Al Pacino in a performance that stunned audiences and critics alike. The film received 6 Academy Award nominations, including Pacino for Best Actor and Lumet for Best Director.
Well, I don't know anybody who would have resisted the sheer story of Dog Day Afternoon. It was so wild. It was so nutty. Who could ever conceive of such a thing? A guy holds up a bank so he can get money for a sex change operation for his boyfriend. There had been nothing about gay life in an American movie, I think, except for Boys in the Band, which was very different. And here's this extraordinary story. And I was stunned when Pacino wanted to do it, because no major American star had ever let himself in for that kind of a part.
Come on. You're a city cop, right? Robbing a bank's a federal offense. They got me on kidnapping, armed robbery. They're gonna bury me, man. I don't want to talk to somebody who's trying to calm me. Get somebody in charge here.
I am in charge.
I don't want to talk to some flunky pig trying to calm me, man.
You don't have to be calling
What's he
pig.
doing?
And when you get back
what
over
are you
there...
moving in there for?
When you
What's
get
he
the
doing?
fuck back there, get back there.
What's he doing? Look at him with it.
Come on, get over there.
Go on back there, man.
Get over there, will ya?
He wants to kill me so bad he can taste it.
I'm always going to kill you.
Attica! Attica!
Will you?
Attica! 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 Attica!
When you start dealing with sex or death, and Dog Day has both, you never know what an audience is going to do. I don't know what an audience is going to do anyway. I should say that to begin with. But I sure in hell wouldn't have known what they were going to do here. For the first time, I was worried about what an audience was going to do. Were they going to, hey, you know, guys getting drunk in the balcony and start yelling during some of the more tender scenes? And so I told the actors that we were never going to depart from the script structurally, or each scene, what each scene was to accomplish structurally, but that in order to make the characters closer to themselves, I want you to wear your own clothes, you're not going to have any makeup, et cetera, and then one of them asked the inevitable question, what about words? Can we use our own words? And I said, yeah. Frank Pearson, who did the screenplay, was present at rehearsals. And at the end of the day, we'd take the improvisations, which were being recorded, and make the script up out of it.
I don't know, they might deal with us. You know? I mean, I don't know about that guy out there. But if I get the FBI involved in this, you know, they might deal. What do you think? Sal, don't.
No.
What's the matter with you?
You made me a promise, didn't you? Did you promise me something, huh?
Yeah.
Did you say either we get away clean or we kill ourselves? Did you say that?
But I'm not talking.
Did you?
I'm not talking
Do you
about
not?
that. I do
Do
believe.
you believe in keeping your promises, huh?
Yeah, but I'm not
Then
talking.
does it still go?
Yeah, still goes.
Well, what the fuck are you talking about? Huh?
I'm trying it.
I ain't going back to that prison, Sonny.
My favorite film of his is Dog Day Afternoon. What he did with Al Pacino and the others in that is really just, what performances. And the realism, every minute of that film is so real to me. I mean, it's just jumping off the screen like it's just happening, and he happened to have a camera there on real people. He did that in live shows too. He was able to get that kind of work out of actors.
Good evening. Today is Wednesday, September the 24th, and this is my last broadcast. Yesterday, I announced on this program that I was going to commit public suicide. Admittedly, an act of madness. Well, I'll tell you what happened. I just ran out of bullshit.
Lumet followed Dog Day Afternoon with the now classic 1976 production of Paddy Chayefsky's Network. It was a scathing indictment of the television industry and its propensity toward self-prostitution. The film received 10 Academy Award nominations. Peter Finch, William Holden, Faye Dunaway, and Beatrice Straight won Oscars for their performances. Lumet was once again nominated for Best Director.
So I don't have any bullshit left. I just ran out of it, you see.
Nobody could resist doing a satire about television. It was just waiting there for it. But also, you know, Chayefsky is one of the finest American writers, I think, that's ever worked in movies. Patty had a sense of where we are ridiculous and could write about it and write about it with humor and yet great compassion and a fine sense of drama. So it's one of the best scripts that ever came across my desk.
Howard, I'm taking you off the air. I think you're having a breakdown. Require treatment.
This is not a psychotic episode. This is a cleansing moment of clarity. I'm imbued, Max. I'm imbued with some special spirit. It's not a religious feeling at all. It's a shocking eruption of great electrical energy. I feel vivid and flashing, as if suddenly I'd been plugged into some great electromagnetic field. I feel connected to all living things, to flowers, birds, all the animals of the world.
Network is probably more timely than when we did it because everything that Network talked about has happened. I don't quite know whether anybody's been killed on the air yet, but I'm sure it'll happen within the next 5 years. But other than that, it has all happened. People would say, oh, what a brilliant satire. And we would say it's not satire at all, it's sheer reportage. And that's turned out to be true.
I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!
Lumet followed Network with Equus, The Wiz, Just Tell Me What You Want, and Prince of the City, which he directed in 1981. Inspired by a true story, Prince of the City stars Treat Williams as a Manhattan detective who agrees to help the U.S. Department of Justice weed out corruption in the New York Police Department. Lumet won the New York Film Critics Award for Best Director, as well as receiving an Academy Award nomination as Best Director.
Prince of the City was just so appealing because of its complexity. I'd never read, and it was a good book, Robert Daley's book, I had never read a book where people's motives were so obscure, complicated, where you couldn't trust anybody, where nobody told the truth. The government didn't tell the truth. Bob Lucy didn't tell the truth. Nobody told the truth. And everybody was theoretically pursuing the truth. And that's delicious because that's the way an awful lot of our lives go. And not deliberately, as in that case, but
Come on, why don't you tell me about your problem, Ronnie?
that happens an awful lot.
Oh,
So
you
to me, it was an
nothing.
irresistible story.
Shit, I come here, you got this house, you got a car, your wife's got a car, you know? Huh?
Tell me the
You're
problem.
always wearing the best
Tell me your
clothes.
problem, not my problem.
You're always
Your
wearing
problem.
the best clothes, you smell like I don't know what, and all your friends down there, they're in the same shape.
Hey, we earn what we got.
Oh,
Nobody
I
gave
look
us
at those
nothing.
cops down there. What are you telling me? You guys are civil servants? Huh? Is that what you're telling me? You guys are doing more shit than me or any of the people I knew would.
Hey, listen to this. We earn what we got.
Come
Listen,
on,
why don't you
you
search my
always-
house, huh? Search my house.
You
Come on,
always
like all
coming
the other
on like you're
times, huh?
something special.
Like all the other times.
Like you're
Search
something
my
special
house,
because you
huh?
got a badge to go with your gun. You know the only difference between you and the guy in the street that's putting a stocking over his head, huh? You got a badge.
Paul Newman starred in Lumet's 1982 production of The Verdict. Newman played an alcoholic Boston lawyer who tries to redeem his personal and professional reputation by winning a difficult medical malpractice case. Newman was nominated for a Best Actor award, as well as Lumet for Best Director, and the film for Best Picture.
It wasn't easy to find the keys to a character like Frank Galvin. First of all, because the man himself is very complex. But in addition to that, there's something about Mamet's writing that is one of the reasons it's endlessly interesting, is that he'll give you one line, but he expects the actor and the director to fill in 3 unspoken lines. So you have to work out between you, what has David left unspoken here? What has he not said? And how do we play it? And you're playing the unspoken thing all the time. And it's one of the reasons Mamet is a very difficult writer to act. And that's what we spent the time doing. And that's how we unearthed that character.
I'm an attorney on trial before the bar, representing my client. My client. You open your mouth, you're losing my case for me.
Now listen to me,
No, you listen to me. All I want on this trial was a fair shake, okay? Push me into court 5 days early. I lose my star witness, and I can't get a continuance, and I don't care. I'm going up there, I'm gonna try it, I'm gonna let the jury decide. You know, they told me about you. Said you're a hard ass, you're a defendant's judge. No, I don't care. I said to hell with it, to hell with it.
Look, Galvin, many years ago.
Come on. Hey, don't give me that shit about you being a lawyer, too. I know about you. You couldn't hack it as a lawyer. You were a bag man for the boys downtown, and you still are. I know about you.
Are you done?
You're damn right I'm done. I'm gonna ask for a mistrial.
Between 1982 and 1988, Lumet directed Death Trap, Daniel, Garbo Talks, Power, The Morning After, and Running on Empty. Then in 1989, he directed Family Business, starring Sean Connery, Dustin Hoffman, and Matthew Broderick. The film did not work as Lumet planned and proved to be a box office failure.
I wanted to do a fable. And fables always begin with once upon a time, right? And I mean, I'm not a fool. I know that Dustin Hoffman does not look like Sean Connery's son. And I know that Matthew Broderick does not look like Dustin Hoffman's son. But that was one of the joys of casting it that way, which was, it was my way of letting you know, hey, this isn't real. This is not to be taken that seriously. This is for you to have a good time on, have a hell of a whopping good yarn with what I hope are some good laughs. And it didn't work because the whole drama changed its tone just past about 60% of the way in. I think it was thoroughly enjoyable when I saw it again. I found it thoroughly enjoyable. And then all of a sudden, once Matthew got captured by the cops, and then Sean got sentenced to jail, it just went into a dark area that the rest of the picture had not prepared you for. So it was neither fish nor fowl. It did not work. But again, I just wanted to do a fable.
Adam, you gotta learn to judge people better.
You two seem pretty cozy all of a sudden.
Hey, I'm his granddad, for Christ's sakes.
Whatever craziness you're cooking up these days, Jesse, Adam can do without.
I'm a man trying his best to enjoy his golden years.
Yeah, just keep my son away from your criminal schemes.
Criminal schemes?
Mm-hmm. It's probably eating you up that you're getting old, you know, and let no man say that Jesse Mack went out lying down.
Criminal schemes? That's a little rich coming from an ex-con.
In 1990, Lumet bounced back with his production of Q&A, a suspenseful action thriller about a renegade cop who kills a drug dealer and tries to cover up his wrongdoing by claiming he was only protecting himself. The film starred Nick Nolte, Timothy Hutton, and Armand Assante, who received an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor.
I can't remember many pictures that take an honest view of racism in America. And I don't mean racism in terms of, hey, you dirty Jew, or hey, you know, I'm not talking about that simplistic level. I'm talking about racism that's built into the warp and woof of the society. The Irish cops used to hang out together, and the Italian cops would hang out together, and the Jewish cops would hang out together. And the police organizations were based along a great many of them on ethnic and certainly racial lines. Well, that's what Q&A is about.
You think I don't know why you got me down here in this cockamamie case? Of course, she's with me now. White bread. Oh, yeah, I know all about you and my old lady. She told me everything. If I catch you sniffing around her, you're gonna get much more than you could ever handle. I really don't give a shit if you're the law, whatever the fuck you are. Okay? You've been warned, kid.
You ever point your finger at me again, I'll break it off and shove it up your ass.
Okay. I guess now we've both been warned.
The book did not have the racial emphasis that I put into the script. That's one of the reasons I wanted to write it myself. Also, when I know the language, when I know the sound of the person, but when I know those people, it becomes, in a way, almost simpler for me to write it. I think my movies have a lot of reality, which is, rather than investigate that word, it's easier to say gritty feel. But the movies seem real, no matter how stylized the work is in making them. But yeah, that's been said a lot. And therefore, like all things that have been said a lot, it's kind of dismissive in a way. I remember, as I said, I thought Henry Fonda and James Mason and Spencer Tracy were three of the best movie actors ever. And I got so tired of reading reviews of Hank saying, and another brilliant performance by Henry Fonda, as if that's just easy to come by. Not easy.
Melanie Griffith starred in Lumet's 1992 film, A Stranger Among Us, the story of a female cop who goes undercover among the Hasidic Jews of New York City to uncover a brutal murder. Once again, Lumet missed the public mark, and the film was not widely seen.
Of course not.
Never, ever.
Melanie Griffith, who I think is a treasure and one of the best actresses we've got, people thought she was wrong for the part, which is fascinating because Nick Pileggi and I were having dinner one night, and he said, "Sidney, did you ever meet?" And he mentioned a woman's name, and I said, "No." And he said, "Because it's Melanie in A Stranger Among Us." He said, "She's a cop. That same little voice, that great body, the same blonde hair." He said, "I thought you would base the character on her. It was so much like." The joy of that picture for me was Ms. Griffith, because I would work with her tomorrow if the script came along. I think she's just wonderful.
Well, what attracted me was working with Sidney. Was really why I wanted to do it. I mean, it was the role. I mean, I don't think anybody saw this movie because it was about the Hasidic Jews, but they can't go to the movies. So it wasn't. I don't think too many people saw this film, but it was a very good script, and because Sidney was directing it, I wanted to do it. He's so into it and has so much energy that you can't help but just do anything he tells you, because he says that you can do it, so you believe that you can.
Is anything missing? Money? Jewelry?
Diamonds are missing, yes.
How much are we talking here?
Wholesale, about $720,000.
Well, look, I hate to say this, but I mean, if we're talking diamonds, we could be looking at a felony here. I mean, maybe your son ripped you off. I've seen it 100 times.
In your world, perhaps, not in ours.
Well, one day we were shooting on 47th Street in New York, and I think Sidney did 64 setups, and we were finished by 5 o'clock. I mean, it was like this huge thing, you know, a robbery and the cars going through the windows and people running and guns going and people shot and all this stuff, and it was done by 5 o'clock. It's just, he is so organized and so excited about what he's doing when he's doing it, that everybody gets right in there with him, you know?
So many times people have asked me, and I'll bet you some critics are going to say it, we're getting a little bored with this Sidney and his corrupt cop routine. The reason I'm interested in corrupt cops is, number one, because it still goes on, and in fact, as I was saying before, is getting worse. For the first time ever, we have found little traces of corruption in the DEA and Drug Enforcement Agency, federal agency, which has never happened before. and the money is just too big to resist. And as long as I keep seeing that up there, if I can get the financing, I want to keep making movies about it, because I can't think of anything more pressing. I think racism and drugs are the two things that can destroy this country. I don't think anything else can.
In 1993, Lumet released Guilty as Sin. Then in 1997, he directed Andy Garcia, Lena Olin, Richard Dreyfuss, and Ron Liebman in Night Falls on Manhattan. The film has been called Lumet's triumphant return to worldwide movie making. Corrupt cops, tainted evidence, and a big trial dominate this riveting cop movie that succeeds without the obligatory car chase and cheap courtroom theatrics.
Andy Garcia is really a major actor. And again, you see, out of our unconscious racism, and because of his name, he's always relegated to Latino parts. Well, I've got him playing a black Irishman in this.
He always would tell me that he felt I had a sense of purity in what he believed I was and what the perception, who he thought I was, and that's why he approached me. And he needed that. And there's a piece in the script which he always said that had to do with the character wanting to be a priest, that at one time he thought about being a priest. And he felt he wanted someone who could pull that off when you said, oh yeah, well, he felt that I could be believable as a priest. And little did he know.
Why here? You swear to me here, Mama's grave, you're clean on this Kleinhoff business. Kleinhoff? You know damn well Kleinhoff is. Don't look at me that way. He had his hands all over some cops that 6'4" and 6'5" and 7'4". Swear to me right here, Pop. Right here. You're clean.
I swear to you, it's your mother's grave. I'm clean.
Why'd you lie at the trial?
Joey's already told you.
Joey told you about our meeting.
Of course.
What about Joe?
He's clean. Why is his name in Kleinhoff's book? Kleinhoff tried to reach him.
Joey comes to me and he asks me, what should he do? What should he do? I told him I didn't want to touch it. So he turned him down. How do you know? How do I know what? That he turned him down!
He's my partner.
Richard, of course, is just totally admirable. American actor in a part that's a natural for him, that's not really, but sort of loosely based on William Constable. And he's something to watch, Mr. Dreyfuss.
Why'd you take the case?
Because I was after something else.
What?
Sean. First rule of the drug world. There can't be that much money around without dirty cops. That's what I wanted to get to.
Why? Who appointed you?
My 15-year-old daughter. When she OD'd.
I was with my wife, Jessica Walter, who had done the group with Sidney, so she knew Sidney. And said, hello, Sidney. And Sidney said, I got a part for you. Like, dangerous. It wasn't like an invitation to something nice. It was like, you're in for a lot of trouble. It's the way he said it was so funny. I said to Jessica, I'll never see this man again as long as I live. Because anytime a director ever says anything like that to an actor, you can be assured you'll never see the guy again. Most of the time that's true. Fortunately, it was not true with Sidney.
When we capture Jordan, and we will, he's going to be tried. It's the easiest case this office will ever have. He left one empty gun behind. His prints are on it. I'll bet you whatever you want, ballistics will find bullets in one of those 4 cops that came from that gun. He's the worst dope dealer in Harlem. A murderer of his own people. A monster. As I said, easiest case this office will ever have. I hope they get him alive. Because I want him put on trial by this office. You know who the prosecutor's going to be? You, Sean. You're going to try him. That's right. You, Sean.
We were doing one scene with Ron Liebman in the DA's office, and it was Ron's scene, and I was off camera, and Ron kept coming back and forth on the phone to see me. And then he did one take, and Sidney said, and he said, okay, Ronnie, you okay? And he goes, let me try another one. He said, okay. And I said to myself, he asked for another take. He never gives me another take. He never gives anybody else another take when we ask for it. So he does another take. And then he says, you okay with that? And he says, let me try something. He says, okay. And now we're on a third take, and I'm going, wait a second. Now he does it, and then he asks for a fourth take, and Sidney says, okay, one more. And I said, wait a second. He says, what do you have to be, New York and Jewish to get an extra take on this movie? And he says, that helps.
He's under 5.
No, I'm not. I'm 7.
You should learn to keep your mouth shut.
I don't like the way you talk to me.
In 1999, Lumet released Gloria, a retelling of the original 1980 John Cassavetes film. Sharon Stone starred as the title character, a woman who finds herself on the run with a neighbor's 6-year-old boy after his parents are eliminated by the mob. Lumet's solid direction and Stone's strong performance could not keep the movie from being compared by critics to Cassavetes' original film.
This is big business. You're interfering.
The boy doesn't know anything. I mean, I could see him doing something with his life.
Next up for Lumet was Whistle. Based on the novel by James Jones, the film would complete the trilogy started in 2 earlier films, From Here to Eternity and The Thin Red Line. 4 characters from these films are carried over in Lumet's movie. The film follows their intertwined and separate destinies when they return stateside on a hospital ship.
He's an artist. He's a true artist, and he loves people that are, I think, I mean, it seems like he loves actors, he loves the profession, he loves the entertainment.
I think he can help you get to new levels, and I think that's the best thing you can say about any director.
But I think that it's the fact that he has all of the necessary qualities, but in abundance.
Sidney, as an artist, is a sort of a sculptor, you know. He is, things are real, and he deals with reality, and substantial, and of moment. He has the capacity to keep all of that as a part of the subcontext of what it is you're doing, and yet deal with you as if it's a gag that you're playing on somebody down the street. How he does it, I don't know. But the magic of the man is that he sculpts very carefully what it is he wants, and he conspires with you to help him do whatever it is he has in mind. Long live Sidney Lumet.
Haven't the foggiest idea of how I'd want to be remembered. Or even if I would be remembered, or if I want to be remembered. You see, it's those, it seems to me that people who worry about that get themselves in terrible trouble. I mean, at least that's my opinion. You can't worry about history and posterity, and do your work and go home. And what's going to happen is going to happen anyway. The very question, how would you like to be remembered, implies that you're dead already, so what difference does it make? Fred Astaire said it best. Fred Astaire said, I don't take myself seriously, but I take my work very seriously. That says it all.